Good afternoon. On behalf of Superintendent Hoffmeister and the Office of Federal Programs, I'd like to welcome you to the FY20 Foster Care Overview webinar. I also have Julia Sterr here with me from Oklahoma Department of Human Services, and she'll be joining us a little bit later on in the webinar. This is our agenda today. We have the foster care plan, transportation of foster care students, point of contacts for the LEAs and the SEAs, educational stability, foster care set aside. We'll go over foster care coding, and then we will have Julia go over some slides. On December the 10th of 2016, the foster care plan was implemented under ESSA Section 1112. The plan was implemented to provide protection for foster care students and to promote educational stability and success in collaboration with child welfare partners and tribal agencies. The plan provides protection for foster care students by eliminating barriers for enrollment in schools, transportation, and school success. The plan also provides the opportunity for foster care students to meet the same challenging state academic achievement standards to which all students are held. Foster care students are to remain in the school of origin as long as it is in the best interest of the student. Schools are to provide immediate enrollment for foster care students, and schools should also provide students in foster care with transportation when and if necessary. Under ESSA Section 1111, an LEA must collaborate with the child welfare agencies and tribal child welfare agencies to implement the Title I educational stability provisions. So what should the LEA's foster care plan include? So it should include an LEA point of contact and their responsibilities, the decision-making process, the type of documentation or records that should be shared between parties, collaborative structure such as regularly scheduled meetings in which relevant individuals can participate in a particular process, the best interest determination document regarding the child's school placement, transportation procedures, responsibilities and costs related to student transportation, and clear written policies that will remove barriers to immediate enrollment and record transfers for foster care children. The state foster care plan is available on our website, and the link will be provided in a later slide. So the responsibilities of the foster care point of contact at the state level is to coordinate with responding state and tribal child welfare agency points of contact, facilitate data sharing with the state and tribal child welfare agencies, monitor LEAs to ensure compliance with the Title I requirements at the local level, we may provide professional development opportunities and technical assistance for LEAs, point of contacts, and other personnel regarding school stability and educational support for children in foster care as needed, and also to collaborate with state and tribal child welfare agencies to provide guidance to LEAs regarding laws and regulations and policies. So the responsibilities of the local education agency point of contact are to coordinate with corresponding child welfare agencies point of contacts, lead the development and process for making the best interest determination. LEA foster care point of contact may be the same as the homeless coordinator at the district level, document the best interest determination, facilitate the transfer of records and immediate enrollment. They'll also facilitate data sharing with the child welfare agencies consistent with Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act and other privacy protocols, develop and coordinate local transportation procedures, manage best interest determinations in transportation cost disputes, and provide professional development and training to school staff on Title I provisions and educational needs of children in foster care as needed. Educational Stability Standard Procedures. The CWA will notify the LEA point of contact regarding which students are in foster care. They will also inform the LEA about a child placement away from parents or guardians. Such child will enroll or remain in the school of origin unless a determination is made that it is not in the child's best interest to attend the school of origin. The Child Welfare Agency will be the final decision maker in determining the best interest of the student. LEAs and CWAs should collaborate to develop clear procedures for transportation in order to maintain students in their school of best interest. When a determination is made that it is not in such child's best interest to remain in the school of origin, the child is immediately enrolled in the school of residence by the child's foster parent or caseworker. Enrollment must not be denied or delayed for foster care students in order to prevent educational discontinuity. Now moving on to transportation. For transportation of students at additional cost, some examples could include a foster parent, relative, or other adult providing transportation but needing reimbursement for mileage, an agency providing the youth or caretaker with bus passes or other public transportation vouchers, an agency contracting with a private transportation company to provide a bus, van, or a car, also a school district rerouting or adding buses to its fleet to accommodate the transportation needs of children in foster care, a foster parent, relative, or other adult providing transportation but needing reimbursement for mileage, and an agency providing the youth or caretaker with bus passes or other public transportation vouchers. I think that was on there twice. I'm sorry. This is some of USDE's guidelines include, even if an LEA doesn't transport other students, it must ensure that transportation is provided to children in foster care. Transportation must be provided in a cost-effective manner, so low-cost or no-cost options should be explored. Pre-existing bus stops or public transportation, foster parents, relative, or other adult providing transportation, or if the child is eligible for transportation by other programs, for example, IDEA. Title I may be utilized to provide services for foster care students. Please keep in mind, homeless funds are not to be used for the transportation of foster care students. OSDE highly recommends that LEAs reserve 1% of Title I funds for foster care. The 1% recommended for foster care needs must be in addition to the set-aside reserved for homeless students. If foster care funds are not utilized, the district can reassign funds for usage in other Title I areas. So the function code for foster care coordinator is 2340 if the foster care coordinator is a standalone position. So this position cannot be 2199, which is the homeless care coordinator. The foster care coordinator will work with school administration support services. Therefore, school administration support function 2340 must be used. Here is the website, our state website, where the foster care plan can be found. This webinar will also be uploaded there, and any updates regarding the foster care program. Now I'm going to introduce Julia, who will be presenting the second half of the webinar.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what the Child Welfare Services Education Program does. We provide training to all of our child welfare supervisors, child welfare specialists, foster parents, community partners, And we are also in a lot of the schools. We can do child welfare abuse and neglect training, or provide more training on how to work with students in foster care. We can help obtain school records. Although this is a function of the schools to exchange records in a timely manner, sometimes, just by the nature of being in foster care, these are highly mobile students, and so records can be very hard to secure. So we can help with providing placement history so the school can request those records from each of the districts. We are the point of contact for the Every Student Succeeds Act and State Department of Education. We create and amend all of the policy within child welfare having to do with students in foster care. We are the liaison to the Regents of Higher Ed, and we try to ensure that all of the Oklahoma's Promise scholarship applications for students in foster care are completed. Please remember that students in foster care can automatically enroll in Oklahoma's Promise, and the income requirement is waived during the enrollment period. We coordinate educational resources. We have contracts with various agencies around the state that can help provide support educationally or mental health support. So we work with our schools to ensure that students in foster care are able to do their best work while in school. And then we assist and support wherever we can. So we have to talk about the barriers for students in foster care. One of the things that schools need to know is that the average student in foster care will move about 3 times during their stay. Each time a student in foster care moves, they can lose an average of 4 to 6 months of education. So on average, students in foster care can be approximately 2 years behind their non-custody peers. It's really important that whenever needed, we get assessments and testing completed for students in foster care in a timely manner. We have a lot of schools that are wanting to do RTI, try to do a pretty lengthy observation period before committing to any assessments. And what we're finding is that students will move prior to any of those assessments being completed, and the next school the student enrolls in has to start that assessment process all over again. A lot of the students we're working with have an inadequate level of education, and a lot of them were missing those critical early education experiences. They're 2 to 3 times more likely to have disabilities. However, those disabilities are more often, they go undiagnosed or undocumented. Because, like I mentioned before, oftentimes schools are unable to complete assessments prior to another move. I will also tell you, just anecdotally, one of the major reasons we're seeing students in foster care move is due to suspensions. Students will be suspended because of behaviors in schools. And what happens if students can't go to school, foster parents can't go to work. If foster parents can't go to work, one of the first calls they make to us is, please find this student another foster home. So we really need to be critically looking at any alternatives to those suspensions for our students in foster care. And then emotional factors. We have to take into consideration the fact that students in foster care may not know where they're going to be the very next day. They may not know when they're going to see their mom or dad, brother or sister, dog, toys, clothing that they had in their home. And so they are going to have a more difficult time focusing on reading math, English, science, etc. A lot of them are in survival mode. The rate of PTSD for students in foster care is incredibly high. They are coming from abusive and neglectful homes. And so what might not even faze a typical student may trigger a student that has had the experiences of many of our students that are in foster care. So the best interest determination, as Naomi talked about, school of origin should always be the school we choose unless it's not in the best interest. And so the receiving school should enroll immediately if they have a student in foster care coming into their school. What the Oklahoma State Plan provided for was a third option. What we found and why we added this third option is that we have all of our students are mobile, but we have a group of students that are move in a significant amount of time. And these may be students that go into a shelter, a group home, a psychiatric hospital, a residential treatment center, therapeutic foster care, and then return back to their own home or to another foster home. And so maybe 2, 3, 4 schools that would have been the school of origin or the last school that the student attended don't really make sense as the best interest for that student. And so we would go back to that school where the student had a relationship and was doing well in that school. Now, this does not mean that students in foster care, which I get this question a lot, can attend any public school in the state of Oklahoma. They do have to have a previous relationship with that school. So how do we make this determination? One of the questions I get from a lot of the schools is, why would you place a child that was removed from Woodward in Idabel? And we have a very stringent process of finding the closest placement to where that child was removed. And then when a placement cannot be found, we start going outwards from there. So when you see a child that may, just for example, be from Woodward and placed in Idabel, we have made significant efforts to get that student closer to their home prior to having to place them so far away. So which better meets the relational needs? We talk a lot about siblings, relationships with teachers. Do they have a coach, a counselor? Do they know the bus driver? So who's going to know this child, and and does this child have relationships with people in the school? Academic needs and challenges, especially students that are on IEPs, have relationships with those special education departments and students. We need to keep them in those school of origins because ultimately the next school has to provide comparable services. But if it was working in that school of origin, we want to make every effort not to have to move that student again. Social emotional needs, once again, what school is best for this child and their mental health and their social life. Unique needs and interests. If we have students that are playing sports, participating in drama, speech, any sort of extracurricular activities. Some schools have certain programs that are specific to their school, and if we have a student that is participating in those, we want to ensure that we can keep them in those schools. I will tell you, it's not ideal, and I will say it can be a sad state of affairs in the state of Oklahoma. But I always say nothing finds a foster home like a booster club. And if we have students that especially are good at sports or are extremely talented in other areas, child welfare can typically make a few phone calls and find someone who wants to keep that child in that school. And it's a great way to keep a student connected with their community, culture, and kin. What school will better meet the permanency goals? If we know, and we typically go to court every 3 to 6 months. But if we know that a student is likely to reunify with a parent in a pretty short period of time, we need to keep that student in the district where the parent is living. We know that reunification can be one of the hardest and most difficult periods for a student in foster care and for the parent. And so the reduction of any stressors is ideal. Age and length of travel. This is probably my number one question. No, it's not appropriate to get on a bus from Idabel and go to Woodward every morning, I think, for any age. I think the longest a school has ever traveled was Oklahoma City to Tahlequah every morning and every afternoon. It was a very extreme situation where the student had attended the same high school all 4 years, and she wanted to graduate with her peers, and everyone was able to get together and make that happen. That would probably not be the recommendation for most students, but it worked for that one. We look at age, younger kids, probably a shorter amount of time. Teenagers can probably travel a longer period of time. Which school does the student prefer? Remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle. We have students, obviously there are a lot of teenagers, the grass is greener, so they want to change schools, but that might not be in their best interest. And the same goes for caregivers and placement providers' choice. We have a lot of foster parents who have really great relationships with their local school districts. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the school district that is in the best interest for the student that is placed in their home. Our foster parents also know that they have to make efforts to keep students in their school of origin. And so our foster parents, whenever possible, do need to be working with the school to create transportation plans to make that happen for our students. Just an idea of some of the creativity that comes. We've had foster parents in schools meet halfway. So a bus will meet halfway and a foster parent will meet that bus. So the school and the foster parents were able to divide that responsibility. We've had schools that will go into another district in the morning and the foster parent will pick the student up. We've had schools that have created another bus stop further down the line so that the foster parent can meet that bus at the bus stop. There are definitely ways to make this happen, and I've seen foster parents in schools go above and beyond, so we need to ensure that we're doing that for all our students. This is the best interest determination form created by the Department of Human Services and the State Department of Education. It should be provided to the school by the foster parent or child welfare specialist. If you're not getting these, please request them from child welfare. And they should be done each time a student moves placements, regardless of if they're going to change schools. And then the last thing I want to speak about are records. Because of the mobility of our students in foster care, records are very difficult to keep on top of. And although it affects all of our students tremendously, especially for our high school students that are trying to keep track of their credits. We have more students in foster care losing credits because of the inability of child welfare and schools to ensure those records are following the students. And so we have a records request. It does state the law on it that allows for schools to share all their school records with Department of Human Services, as long as we do have a case regarding the student. And also remember that schools can share all of their educational records with our Child Protective Services workers, regardless of the custody status of the student. If we are investigating child abuse or neglect, those educational records can be critical when making our safety assessments and decisions on whether or not those students are safe at home. Oftentimes, the IEP is the first time we learn that the student has a disability, and so that will affect our assessment of child safety dramatically. So please, when a child welfare specialist sends these records, get those to them just as quickly as possible. And the child welfare specialist should send a copy of their badge along with the records request. So I thank you guys for your time. Oh, I do want to show you, we have all of the school's point of contacts on our okfosters.org website. Okay. But the points of contact for the Department of Human Services are going to be our district directors. So if you go to our website and you choose Contact Us, you'll see down here all of the counties. So wherever the county where the school is will be the district director. It may be another appointed person in the office, but the district director will definitely know who that person is. So if we take Canadian County, for example, their child welfare office is located in Yukon, and you'll see Mallory Poplin is their district director. So that would be who the school would contact if they have any questions regarding placement history, contacting the child welfare specialist or supervisor, foster parent, etc.
You want to go back to your PowerPoint?
Yeah, I think it has our contacts on the left.
You didn't do anything wrong, no.
Fine. Yeah. Thank you guys very much.
And we did have one question that I don't know which one of you guys needs to answer.
I think this is a Julia question.
Sorry, yeah, what's the question?
You have a question. May a foster student enroll in Oklahoma's promise after the age limit of 15 or 10th grade was the question.
No, the rules of 8th, 9th, and 10th grade still apply for students in foster care. There's some.
During an evaluation to consider eligibility for a category under IDEA, environment should be ruled out prior to eligibility determination. What tool is recommended to be used as evidence of no environmental concerns or evidence of environmental concerns which may have impacted academic performance? The question under IDEA, I wouldn't be able to answer. That would be a special education question. If you would like to email me, I will direct you to the right person to talk to that can get that question answered for you. I'm going to leave a couple for just a little bit of time for some additional. Oh, here we go. Is there some written guidance about how to split costs for transportation with DHS? There is written guidance. Not necessarily written guidance, but I can provide you with some guidance if you will email me, and I can send you that information on how costs are split with DHS and the school districts.
There's also a sample letter in the
To Naomi. Or you can email Julia too regarding the information.
I will say, although I can't answer the question about assessments ruling out the environment, schools can have access to mental health records and psychiatric records of students in foster care so that you will have diagnostic information. These assessments may be heavily redacted because schools cannot be privy to child welfare history, parents' history, foster parents' history, etc. But if a student in our custody has had, let's say, an IQ test or a mental health assessment, the schools can request that so they have diagnostic information.
Okay, and I don't think we have any more questions. Oh, we do. Where do we find the child welfare contact?
Like for the local points of contact?
We're talking about the DHS child welfare contact or the school district point of contact? Oh, on the DHS website.
Let me answer Kathy's question, and then I'll show you again on the website where to find those contacts. So students in foster care, as defined by ESSA, are in the custody of the Department of Human Services. So we do have many cases where we might have an open investigation or a student that's in a family-centered service plan where child welfare is monitoring the safety of that child, but are not in our custody. So typically for those students that are not in our custody, I refer these education issues to the homeless liaison. But if they are not in our custody, they are not considered a student in foster care under ESSA.
When a student enrolls, we aren't always told that they are in foster care. Do you have any suggestions to help us obtain this information up front?
So the Department of Ed and Child Welfare Services is currently, excitingly, working on our data exchange. My hope for this is that when we send the names to the Department of Education of all the students that are in our custody, that will soon be filtered into your database that you're able to access at your local level, so that you'll be able to pull reports to show who are the students in foster care in your local district.
You want to see if we can find that contact information too. I think I did shut you down, so we may have to get to your website. Yep. No, hit escape.
So like Julia said, this is a work in progress, so hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show where to find those points of contact one more time. So all of the points of contact for child welfare, the local points of contact, are district directors. Or if another person has been identified in the local office, then that district director will know who that is. So if you go to our website and you click on Contact Us, you'll see over here, Find the county nearest you. And so you'll choose the county where your school is located. So we'll do Canadian. Our child welfare office is in Yukon, and the child welfare district director is Mallory Poplin. And so you can call her, and she'll be able to give you the names of child welfare specialists, supervisors, foster parents, parents of a student in foster care. We do have 77 counties, and I believe we have 63 district directors. So please ensure that you're choosing the county that your school is located, so you're choosing the correct district director. If not in state custody, do they have any benefits from the state? I mean, there are multiple benefits that just any student can access if they're meeting requirements. SNAP benefits, medical benefits, etc. But they would need to be the families would need to apply at their local DHS level for any other benefits that DHS may offer. So a family who takes in a child because of incarceration, once again, Kathy, I think if they're not in our custody, it may fall under McKinney-Vento or other statutes, because we do have families, even when child welfare is involved, they don't come into our custody because families step forward to care for the child. So I don't think the takes in necessarily makes them in our custody.
Here is our contact information again. Feel free to contact me or Julia if you guys need any help or have any kind of questions. I want to thank Julia for joining us today, and we also want to thank you all for joining us today for the webinar. And we hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.